Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Teen Parents for our college admissions talk. Tonight, we're lucky enough to have Darryl Uy with us, and he is the Director of Admissions at Bates College in Maine. I've got some questions for him because we are going to talk about this whole idea of virtual tours, but please make sure that if you've got questions, to put them in the comments, and we'll certainly try to get for them this evening. So first of all, hello, Darryl.
Hi, Jody. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much. I know you've been super busy. In fact, you want to tell everybody what you did, what you've been doing these last few days?
This is, we're in the middle of what we call quote unquote travel season, or what normally would be travel season, but we're doing everything remotely this year. And so I am working from home here in Freeport, Maine. But I've been on my computer all day, quote unquote, visiting high schools virtually, meeting with students, meeting with counselors. And right before this, I was speaking to families at a public school in New York City about the college essay and that whole process. And now I'm doing this. So it's been a lot of virtual visits around the country today.
Gotcha. Now, campus is open at Bates though, right? So students are on it? Are all students on Bates on campus?
So we opened it this year, this fall, to all students if they wanted to join. But of the 2,000 students, 1,700 or so are on campus. And then another 160 plus decided to stay home and study remotely.
Gotcha.
And then a handful of students actually were able to study abroad, while most other study abroad opportunities were canceled. But so majority of the students are on campus, but even if they are on campus, teaching is a hybrid. So some classes are in person, others professors are completely virtual. So
yeah. And one place that is completely virtual for you guys is your admissions office, right?
Correct. Yeah, we are not offering unfortunately, we're not welcoming any guest families or prospective students to visit right now. It's not only hard for us in admissions, but all of our colleagues in the athletic department that usually have recruits coming to campus. No one is allowed to bring visitors to campus at this point. So.
Yeah, and I was going to say the fall, especially, this is such a peak season for people to want to go to New England and check things out and have their college visits and all that sort of stuff. But
yeah.
It's for the safety. I mean, you guys have some pretty strict rules, and it's allowed you to be able to keep kids on campus and keep people safe. So
correct.
But there's so much talk about visiting schools if you're a junior or a senior perspective, and getting that feel. And now what do they do? What are admissions offices offering in terms of these virtual visits?
Sure. Before we dive into that question, I just want to recognize that this is a difficult year for all of us involved. So us on the admissions side, but also prospective families, the students particularly who are juniors and seniors this year. That I get it. I mean, it's the college process is stress-inducing already, and this is just another added layer that none of us really expected, wanted, or ever had to deal with. However, the sort of the silver lining of all of this, in terms of turning our work remotely, is that we have been able to reach more families, more so than if we were in person traveling this fall. And technology has been an amazing sort of opportunity for us to go into homes that are really in rural or remote locations, and visit schools that are also kind of far off the beaten path that we normally don't visit when we're traveling or on the road. So that's been great. But the other thing I want to mention to students is, for any of you who saw the spring summer runaway hit by Netflix, Love is Blind. It's a reality TV show. But it's about a bunch of single folks who are trying to find a match, but they're not allowed to see each other. And they are in these pods, and they can only talk to the other quote unquote contestants. and ask all these questions to sort of see if they are a good match with each other. And that's kind of like what students have to do this year. You can't come visit us, but you have to be able to find a good match by asking the right questions. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do that. And these virtual options that a lot of schools are offering would be one of the easiest ways to sort of get some basic information.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the virtual options that are available for students and families?
Yeah, every school's different. So at least at Bates, we're offering what we normally would in person. So a virtual version of the information session, a virtual version of the campus tour, which I'll talk about in a second, and then the interview. They're also going to be virtual, either with one of us on staff, one of our seniors that we've hired to work in the office to help us with the interviews, or even alums. All of those are going to be virtual as well. But in terms of the tour, yeah, many schools will have an online, on-demand tour, campus tour that you can just watch at any time, but which we have as well at Bates. But there's some schools out there that we're offering sort of live guided tours if you want to get the sort of a live current student's perspective. So the way it works is we'll use a system like this, some kind of streaming system where we can show the audience that joins us the virtual tour. It's in the background, and then we have two students, current Bates students, that act as the guide and go from stop to stop as if they were walking around campus with a group of families members.
Yeah, it's almost like a watch party,
Yeah.
where you're watching the thing, but then somebody can stop and interject and talk
Right.
about this or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's next.
And the great thing, yeah, and the great thing is that compared to the on-demand version, which is just a video, you can ask your questions in live time, and the students will answer them and provide real sort of experience or sort of anecdote or response. So
yeah.
But other schools, other schools have decided that because of technology, they're not going to do admissions the same way they have done in the past. And so not all schools, not all colleges and universities are doing these high school visits that I've been doing all afternoon. Rather than trying to do the normal routine, they're using technology and video as a unique way to sort of disrupt what they were doing formally. So, for instance, some schools like Middlebury, you can sign up to meet with your admissions representative for a quick chat over Zoom or Google Meet, whatever their platform is. But we're really trying to create opportunities to have that one-on-one time that we normally would have on the road. And we felt like the virtual option is something that students are really comfortable with these days.
Right.
And it's a lot easier sometimes to talk to someone virtually rather than like in person. And so it's almost not completely anonymous, but definitely easier for, I would say, this generation.
Yeah. The tech savvy ones, they'd probably rather text than talk, though, some of them. Right? Sorry, juniors and seniors, if you're watching, but come on. Okay, so I'm also curious, like, are there options for, like, let's say you're a senior and you're interested and you just really would like to, how you used to be a campus visit and you could stay over or something, but is there like an option to, talk to like a senior, to a student on campus and just kind of get the lowdown in a less formal way, to be able to communicate that way?
Sure. So a lot of schools don't offer the on-campus visit, overnight visit anymore either. So, but most schools will have a section on their website for ask a student anything you want. So we have a whole page full of almost 40 students with all the profiles, their majors, where they're from, obviously their name, and what they do on campus. And so if any of them sort of resonate with you and sort of what you're interested in, you can always just email them, reach out to them, and they can either set up a phone call, you can just chat over email, or set up a sort of a virtual Zoom conference call instead. But the students are really eager to connect with prospective students. And we know that that's a really important part of who your potential classmates could be, or community members. And they provide a great sense of what the ethos and the culture is like, more so than all of us in an admission office, particularly if we did not go to the institution that we work at.
Right. Oops. Oh, sorry. Oh,
Right.
sorry. That's our executive producer with a question. So which we're about to see on the screen. Okay, so here's a question here from Vanessa Marie. The most difficult part is not being able to get a feel for the campus in person. So.
And I get that. I think we're trying everything that we can to at least provide what the energy and the feeling and again, the ethos would be on a campus. And I get it. It's really hard to feel that and experience it without being on campus. But just from these virtual sessions, we really try to provide as much personality and character in terms of who we bring as speakers and the students. And we try to make sure that they are as genuine and as authentic on screen as possible, because we want to make sure that you are getting sort of a real slice of what it could be like and what the community is like here on campus. So like for tonight, before my session about college essays, I was at our welcome we're doing our first virtual, we usually have a fly-in program for students of color and first-generation students. And this would be the time that we're doing it. And today's the first day, but it's all virtual. So we had kids from all over the country that were tuning in. And it was kind of like the Brady Bunch. All the screens had, all the cameras were on, and we saw everybody that was participating. Very informal. There was a lot of laughing. There was a lot of just trading numbers already, and people were connecting virtually. And it was an easy conversation to jump into. And our current students were the ones that were handling it and hosting. So even virtually, they can make someone far away still feel welcome and still feel part of a community that they're considering or looking into.
Right. And also those kinds of programs, you can even meet other prospective students, so you can get a feel for who you're going to be. Nice glass there with the bicycles on it.
Right.
Who you're going to get, kind of would be sitting beside you and, going through the experience with. So that's really a cool idea too. I mean, I know you can sort of, okay. I'm going to admit that I have a mixed bag of memories of going on college tours with my own children. So part of it is because a few of mine may not have been as outgoing as maybe they could have been, but they didn't really meet anyone on their college tours. And in some ways it seems like, some of these virtual sessions, and just because we're so into this right now, that there might even be better opportunities. I know that might sound really euphemistic, but there might be better opportunities even for them to kind of have some of these conversations, or, I don't know, at least they're certainly available. So,
right.
But
so Jody, I just saw a question come in about a student who's sort of a parent whose daughter is a sophomore, wondering if it's too early to look at colleges right now. And is there a way to talk to the college personnel or students at the prospective college just to get an idea if that's the right college for her? I think it's never too early, but I wouldn't do like the full scope of everything. As a sophomore, I think it's fine to start looking into exploring, to maybe sit in on some of these virtual information sessions or just take the tour. That's a great start right now as a sophomore. It can really kick into high gear next year when she's a junior, and definitely the summer between junior and senior year. But right now, I always try to tell families, enjoy high school. Let your kids be kids and be high school students, just because there's so much more than the college process. So we in the admission side will look at everything, obviously, but junior and senior year are really important. And that's when the college process really should kick into high gear. So,
well, and that kind of brings up this whole question too. I think it is great to kind of look so you know what's out there. Again, two of my kids looked and thought they knew where they were going and then changed their mind when they were seniors. So, I mean, you have that too. But this whole question of demonstrated interest too, where you want to be able to, that's always been a big thing. How does this kind of transition to virtual impact the whole idea of, demonstrating interest and showing a college that you care?
sure. So for those who are watching, I just want to make sure that everybody understands the term demonstrated interest. It literally means what it means or sounds like, where you're demonstrating your interest to a college or university to say that you're interested in it and you want to know more, or if admitted, you like to go there. But not every school will track demonstrated interests. In general, this is not the case all the time, but in general, smaller colleges will track demonstrated interest, while larger, bigger universities don't have the capabilities or the time, since the volume is so big, they don't track demonstrated interest. So what do I mean by track? Or what are the examples of demonstrated interest? So when we were in person, visiting campus, going on a tour, doing the information session, doing an interview, all of those things were ways to demonstrate your interest to the college. Now in a virtual world, it's doing the virtual versions of those things. But if you can't come visit, obviously, so a lot of schools are offering just other virtual programming. So like right now, we're also doing a week-long set of events, virtual events, that would constitute our fall open house. So if you want to attend any of those sessions, which are going to be different than an information session, that's just another way to demonstrate your interest. Again, not every school will track it, so don't feel like you have to do it. I think the biggest misconception about demonstrated interest is if you do X, Y, and Z to demonstrate your interest, then you're guaranteed admission to that school. And that's not the case. It should not be this punch card or this checklist of things that you have to do in order to get into school. I think that mentality has really caused the most stress in this process, because families think they have to do all these things on their checklist that equal demonstrated interest that will then equal an admit. I try to encourage families to see it as sort of a timeline of touch points. And what do I mean by that? So start with the information session. So it's a great way to understand what the school is all about, a summary of its mission and sort of its strengths, because what they focus on is really what they're trying to let the public know about what are their strengths, and what they don't talk about is that you can clearly understand what are their not weaknesses, but what may not be their forte. So in general, you can start with the information session. If you like it, great. Maybe do the next thing. Maybe you do the virtual tour next. If you continue to like it, then go to the next step and do a virtual interview. If you like that as well, then do something else. Maybe you go to one of their virtual open houses, or reach out to the mission officer with specific questions. So everything kind of is a step progression and can add on to each of your stages of this process. But after that first visit, if you don't like it, then no need to continue with all the other demonstrated interest checkpoints. So use it as touch points to make sure at each point you're asking yourself, is this the right school for me? And am I learning anything new about this institution from this different opportunity?
That's really good advice. That makes a lot of sense too. And especially I think in this time where, even though we have a lot of time, it is, I think, been this reckoning where we're really trying to, find the things that really matter, or do things because we want to do them instead of because we're supposed to. So this is like tying in with a lot of the other things that we're hearing. Okay, I'm going to ask you two more questions, unless we have any others. Oh, we have lots of questions, so
Yeah.
we will put some of those up. But oh, okay. Let's just look at some of these. Okay, so the SAT require. Oh, okay. why are some schools still requiring them? Some seniors haven't been able to take them yet due to multiple cancellations because of COVID. And I'm just going to piggyback on to Maureen's question too, because somebody was mentioning to me today that their kid was finally this weekend going to be able to, get their hands on an SAT test. Who knew that would be so exciting? But it is in this environment. You know, is test optional really a thing, or what is going on with that?
Sure. So just to preface, at Bates, we are test optional. We've been test optional for 35 years. We're one of the first schools that actually went test optional before test optional became a movement. So back in 1985, we decided to make testing optional, and knowing that some students just don't test well, but are still brilliant in the classroom. Other students don't have the luxury of taking the Princeton Review or Kaplan course or any kind of SAT prep course. Other students may have been sick the day of the test, had a bad day. Who knows? There are a lot of factors that prohibit students from doing well on these tests. But we also know that students are more than just their test score. Students can be brilliant in the classroom, but just not good test takers. And we think that the transcript is going to be more indicative of you and your success in college, and more reflective of you as a student for the last 4 years, compared to a test you take on one Saturday morning. So for schools that are test optional, that's really the reasoning behind it. Why do we still require them? Because for some, it is kind of a great common sort of, again, touch point in the process that we can use to compare the entire applicant pool. But we know that there is some criticism about the testing, that they are biased in terms of how they're made and how they're the questions that are asked. So that's why we don't put too much weight. Just to give you a sense in numbers, of the 8,000 applications we received last year, 50% of applicants applied with testing, 50% did not submit testing. Of those that we admitted, it was about a 50-50 split as well. So at least at Bates, there really is no benefit or disadvantage to applying with or without testing. This year, given the pandemic and so all these test dates being canceled, we are expecting that the percentage of students applying without testing will actually go from 50%, probably even higher, to 80, 90%. And that's going to be fine for us. Just remember that there are many, 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 many schools this year that have become test optional. The last report that I heard was that over 50% of all US four-year institutions have decided to go test optional this year. If not for 1 year, then a 3-year trial run, and even others are into perpetuity and moving forward. So yeah, there are a lot more things that are important than testing right now, given just the national landscape outside of higher ed, and particularly given an election year that we are all worried about as well. And so testing is just one little piece of this process. And any other year, and if it were any other year, I would understand why people were stressed. I know it's still stressful. I don't mean to disregard that, but there's just so many other things that are weighing on our shoulders and on students' shoulders as well. So if you can't take it, don't worry, because school really, really will understand that this year.
Thank you. Thank
you.
Okay, next question here. My son is I love all these Facebook profiles with beloved Ruth Bader Ginsburg on them. My son is a junior and an athlete, and sports aren't being played right now. What should he be doing if he hopes to play sports in college? That is a great question.
Yeah. So I'm, besides being director, I'm also one of the athletic liaisons in the office. So we have 31 teams at Bates. And I am, of all sports, the football liaison. And Jody laughs because she knows me. But there are 4 of us in the office that are liaisons, and we work with all the coaches, and they can't recruit either, and it's really hard for them. But there are software programs that I think Huddle and a few others where student athletes can upload video. It doesn't have to be this year. Obviously, it would be nice if it was this year, but if you have previous video footage that you can share, that's one way for coaches to get, for you to get on their radar. You can always reach out to them. for many conferences, I know that there are policies of when coaches can reach out to students, at least within the NESCAC conference, which Bates is located in, or part of. Coaches cannot reach out to recruits until the summer between junior and senior year. Students, however, recruits, however, can reach out at any time. They can initiate the conversation, but coaches cannot initiate until the summer between junior and senior. There are many other schools that have an earlier timeline that coaches can reach out and probably will be reaching out earlier, maybe summer between sophomore and junior rather than between junior and senior year. So I would just continue to reach out to coaches if your son really wants to play. And just let coaches know that they're interested. And if there's any way to get them footage, that's the best way to sort of get in front of a coach right now.
Thanks.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Will virtual events continue on the next several months, or will they be ending soon?
So even if we go back in person, all the schools that I've talked to, my colleagues at other institutions, even at Bates, we've decided that these virtual opportunities have actually been really good for all of us on the admissions side. And partly because we are able to reach a wider audience and provide more access to people that unfortunately just can't make it to all of our campuses. So we won't go completely, when we're in person, we won't go completely virtual in terms of the options. We'll bring back the on-campus tour and the on-campus interview and info session, but we'll probably have a combination of virtual and in-person opportunities once this is all.
Go hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid.
Oh boy, one of the words from 2020 that many of us may never want to hear again, but still, it is a good thing. So okay. Here's a question. Okay, more testing. Super frustrating. She wanted to increase her first score. She studied really hard over the summer and the facility canceled the exam the night before. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a stomach ache on your behalf. Although a lot of schools are waiving the requirements, she's previously submitted a score to her number one choice, worrying that the low score might hurt her.
Great. So if the school that you submitted the score to is or has gone test optional, you can always reach out to the school and say, I'd like to change my preference from having my scores to be considered to going test optional, or having my scores, or to not have my scores be considered in the process. At Bates, we see that all the time. So a student there's a question on our application that asks, do you want your test scores to be considered in the application process, yes or no? And what they put down can change during the application process. So some may say yes, and then like the day before the deadline, they can reach out to us. Even after the deadline, they can reach out to us and say, actually, I thought about it again, and please don't consider my scores in the process. And so even if we have it on file, we would redact it, and they would not be mentioned at the committee table or in the file. So we would never see it. So it may be stored somewhere in the system because we received it. But when we're evaluating, we would not see those if the student requested to not have their scores considered as part of the application process.
Okay, that's good to know. And I mean, it is so hard, but I think, what I'm sensing from you is that everybody's really trying to work together to make this the best possible scenario for the kids who are applying. And I just have to apologize because I shut my door before we started live, but we adopted this dog who knows how to open doors, and she came in and has been in and out, and now my son just walked by. So I apologize for not maybe being quite as professional as I could have been this evening. I really did try. So back to, but that you're trying to accommodate in these kind of crazy times that, and that the admissions offices are pretty open to. But, oh, that was
thanks, Josh.
My son heard that. So, okay, great. So that's really good. I think that's, kind of has got to take a little bit of the pressure away from people. That you're here to work with, everybody's here to work together. It's not.
Yep.
So go ahead.
So folks may wonder, like, oh, this is the first time that a school is going test optional. How is it really going to work there? But many of us that have been test optional for quite some time, other schools that this is their first year, have been reaching out to us. So we've been playing teacher to a lot of these schools and helping them give them the inside scoop of how we have been handling it. We're providing insider scoop on how to be test optional for schools that this is their first year. So they're not going blind. They've done their research. They've reached out to schools. They've reached out to schools that have been doing it for a while, and we're happy to help. And like Jody said, we are all in this together, and we want to make sure that we stay student-centric and create policies that are going to be best for the students in this process.
Great. Okay. So before I ask Darryl his last question, I just want to let everybody know that next Tuesday night at 8, we're going to be going live with Jeff Zelingo, who has just written a great book whose name I don't remember, but he was behind the scenes at 3 colleges and really kind of got the inside scoop on, college admissions. And he's going to be talking specifically about early decision and early action, and also answer questions that people have. So that's Tuesday night at 8 too. So he'll be here. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that.
His book is called Who Gets In and Why.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So Darryl, our last question here is, do you have any kind of final advice that you have for students or families, just, how to get the most out of their tour? You spoke to it a little bit, but is there just any kind of, advice that you want to offer, final tips?
And for the tour, or just the college process in general?
I think just for well, you know what? You choose.
Okay.
Either.
So this is my favorite story I'd like to share, and it's actually about my college process. So Jody, you already know the story, but I grew up in New Jersey, about half an hour west of New York City. My parents are Asian immigrants coming from the Philippines over 50 years ago. When they came to America, they only knew of 3 schools: Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. And I have an older brother that went to Cornell for engineering, and a younger sister that went to Columbia for pre-med and neuroscience. So in my family, there was an unspoken expectation to go to an Ivy League school and major in some kind of pre-professional. Mind you, I went to an all-boys, private, Catholic, conservative, Benedictine monk high school in northern New Jersey. Yeah, try going there. I was the first one in 16 years from my high school to apply to a small liberal arts school in Connecticut called Wesleyan University. Back in the mid-90s, when I was applying to colleges, Wesleyan did not have the reputation that it has today. So when I told my family and my friends I was applying to Wesleyan, their reaction was, well, isn't that an all-girls school? I said, no, that's Wellesley. This is Wesleyan. So first I had to educate my folks about liberal arts schools here in America, and then convince them that Wesleyan was actually a really good school. Fast forward to my sophomore year at Wesleyan, where I declared a double major in theater and English. My parents then said, well, what in the world are you going to do with those degrees? I said, I have no idea, but we'll find out after I graduate. Ironically, after my brother, my sister, and I all graduated from college, I was the only one with a job. So go liberal arts. So there was a period of time when I was the only one working, not living at home, and not under my parents' health insurance. So life was great. Thankfully, both of them are gainfully employed at this point, but there was that dark period at once in our family. But I started my admissions career after I graduated from Wesleyan at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. I was there for 8 years, did grad school in Boston, and then moved to Ohio and became the director of admissions at Kenyon College for 8 years before joining the Bates team in 2016. So the point of my story, though, is not just to give you my resume, but to let you know that all 3 schools that I've worked at were never, ever on my college list when I was a senior in high school. If I knew about them, well, I knew about Brown at least, but if I knew about the others, I probably would have applied to all when I was a senior. But just to let you know, I think I mentioned this before, there are over 4,700 colleges and universities just within the United States, yet so many of us are so focused on a very, very, very small slice of them, either because of you students who will report, counselors, parents, siblings, friends, parents' friends, whoever, and yet we miss out on so many great schools out there because we only go to what we're familiar with or what we know. So for many of you who are students listening, if you are juniors or seniors and receiving a lot of email or even snail mail right now from colleges that you never heard of, don't just throw it in the recycling bin. I just hope that you at least open it, maybe go to their website, check it out, and sort of see what they have to offer, because you never know. That school you never heard of before may actually be perfect for you, and maybe your dream school. So just keep an open mind throughout this entire process, and apply and see what happens. But no matter wherever you end up going to college, just know that you will definitely get the education to succeed after graduation. So 3 things: good luck, don't stress, and enjoy high school. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Darryl. This was really great talking shop with you. So, and again, if people put questions in the comments afterwards, we will make sure that we answer them. And please join us next Tuesday with Jeff Zelingo. But thanks again, and we hope this helps quell some people's anxiety, or at least a little bit of it. I know it's a hard process. So, okay, all right. Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.